All right, everybody, thank you very much for coming into the public hearing. The City of Cotulla City Council will meet for a public hearing on Thursday, December 14, 2023, at 6:45 p.m. at the Alexander Convention Center, Conference Room 290, North IH 35 Axis Road, Cotulla, Texas, 78014, on a request to rezone the following properties. Item number one, Lot 10, 11, 12, Block 52 of the Oriolander Heights subdivision, lots 8, 9, 10, 11, Block 77 of the Oriolander Heights subdivision, from Class A Single Family Residence District to Class G Commercial Business District. David?
Okay, I give a comment, if there are no comments. These two properties were two different people that came in at the last meeting. One was looking to build or put an RV park. She since changed her mind on the RV park and she just is looking to, change her zoning at this point. This is just a hearing, there's really no, comments from the community on this. The other one is the people that came in and they were looking to do a tire and lube shop in the same area, but where they were was out on the access road. So they were looking to do a business out there. So this will come back, we gotta have two hearings and then this will come back to approval from council.
Yep.
This is just a hearing.
That's on lots 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
We started the public hearing.
Yeah.
Councilman, if there's no discussion on any of the properties listed on item number one, is there any comments or anything you might want to add?
Is this the startup, do they still need to go to the same method of passing the neighborhoods and all that?
Correct. They're gonna have to get signatures from the community. This portion that we're doing right now is so the community can come in and voice their opinion on what's going on with the zoning. So, and if there's nobody that speaks, we pretty much just close it out and keep going. Another question.
Thank you, Councilman. There is no further discussion on the public hearing. This public hearing is now closed. The time is 6:48. All right, everybody, let's get started. The City of Cotulla City Council will meet for a regular meeting on Thursday, December 14, 2023, at 7 p.m. at the Alexander Convention Center, room 290, North IH 35, Access Road, Cotulla, Texas. This is an open meeting, subject to open meeting laws of the state of Texas. Roll call. I believe Mr. Garcia, he called in sick.
Yeah.
So he's the only one missing tonight, so I need a first motion to approve an excuse for him. First by Mr. Sertuche, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, say aye.
Right. All
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Will everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Citizens to be heard. Council can discuss any present issue on any action to be taken on any given issue at this time. Mr. Secretary, we only have one. Citizen's comment, Ms. Jeronima Garza. Yeah, Jerry, right? Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. I have a prepared notes and I'm trembling a little bit, so if I drop anything, just pretend I'm not as clumsy as I appear. Greetings, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I'm humbled by the freedoms offered to us in this great country. I thank each of you for the service that you graciously provide us here in our beloved Cotulla. First, I will tell you how my brother Andres, some of you may remember him, entertained us when we were kids. You see, we lived in extreme poverty. The older I get, the clearer these extremes shock me. How did we ever survive? I will quote Corporal Pedro Garcia, held prisoner by the Japanese. Diosito me ayudó. Now the story that I promised you. Había dos compadres y estaban platicando. Y un compadre no se veía muy good. So the other compadre says to him, something, ¿qué le pasa, compadre? Dice, pues no me siento muy bien, ando muy malo. Pues vaya con el doctor. Pues es que yo no sé hablar inglés. No se preocupe, compadre, yo le interpreto. So the two compadres go to the doctor. And the doctor asks, ¿qué le pasa? ¿Qué tienes, compadre? So he says, pues explícale al compadre que me empieza un dolor aquí en las muñecas. My friend says he has a pain right here on the little dolls. Doctor knocks his head. What else? Dice, pues dile al doctor que el dolor me corre hasta la paleta. He says, the pain, it runs all the way down to the popsicles. Doctor asks, anything else? ¿Qué más, compadre? Well, dile que el dolor me corre y acá se me queda en las sienes. And then after the pain runs from the popsicles, it comes here to the 100s. The doctor nods his head and he says, tell your friend I think he's retarded. Compadre, dice el doctor que te eches mentolato todas las tardes. Okay, this is the time when you get to laugh. All right, I didn't say the joke as well as my brother did. Like the translator in the story, I felt I had recommended mentolato to a man who served us 4 tours in Vietnam. Master Sergeant Ray Abrego planned to attend our Veterans Day program in spirit. So he wrote the speech before going into surgery. Ray, as I call him, because he says que sigue siendo el rey, is the son of Lyndon Bain Johnson's student, Trinidad Abrego. When I returned from a sabbatical, I learned the program we planned had been canceled. I learned it wasn't in the budget. Imagine me trying to explain to a highly decorated veteran that I had messed up. Ray, I know you're watching. And once again, sir, please accept my heartfelt apology. I was asked to participate in the Main Street program, and I signed the letter of commitment on April of 2019. Patsy Lee and I went to a training shortly after that. The training and then another workshop by Dr. Destination, also known as Dr. Dramberger, is the only training I have. Dr. Dramberger continues to answer any questions pertaining to tourism, attraction strategies, in an effort to better serve our community. I have remained a student of the Main Street program by attending Zoom classes offered by the Texas Historical Commission. However, sometimes what I learn and what I experience differ. For example, this workshop lost my place. Does your board reflect your story? Which I attended in 2021. What I learned does not reflect our reality. Studying my notes, I see terms like skills and board development. At every meeting, we're told, task clarity. And here's my favorite. Now, I think I marked it. I don't know why. These are my notes on leaders of provide good governance because staff cannot do it. I'll come back to that. Give of your time and experience. Why? Because we are the face of the organization, ambassadors of our community. The last training I attended in July of this year concerned museums. I attended since there were talk in the city council meeting that I attended about creating a museum at Wellhausen. I would love for us to tell our barrio histories, for the world to learn of our national connections, such as Lyndon Johnson. Don Tranquilino Miranda described by John Lomax as one tough Mexican and a man of theater. In 1934, John Lomax came to Cotulla specifically seeking Don Tranquilino Miranda. Gentlemen, we stand on huge shoulders. Rafael Junco in 1927 built a new building in the Mexican section for a picture show, according to the Cotulla record. Later, Junco added a store next to the theater. This, my friends, was our downtown of what was referred to as the Mexican section. The Main Street program uses a limited historical map created false and lacking history. For example, Joseph Cotulla established the city of Cotulla, which he named after himself. Sorry, I'm dropping everything. On January of 1882. Jesse Latson created LaSalle Town. LaSalle Town held the first post office and county records, where the restrooms for the plaza are currently being built. In 1918, a Father Ledavina, and I don't think I said that correctly, wrote, and I think the letter was to the bishop, stated March 7th, 1918, the Mexicans in this town are still suffering from the terrible drought of the past 2 years, are in poverty stricken. They can do nothing to help. And this was when they were trying to build Guadalupe Hall. Who stepped in? A single woman in poverty who gave basically all she owned in 1935. But who knows her name? Where is her statue? The last map of LaSalle Town was revised in 1923, a short 5 years before Johnson taught at Wellhausen, which was built on Block 1 of LaSalle Town. So I ask you this. Did Johnson teach and visit in Cotulla or in historical LaSalle Town? By now you're probably wondering, what is her point? The point is this. Without the proper training, it is difficult to make appropriate decisions. Our mistakes, like the translator in the story, is based on what we thought we knew. Friends, I urge you to support our Main Street board volunteers to get the necessary training to make good decisions. I invite all council members to attend our meetings, like Councilman Sertuche has often done, and like Councilman Lopez, who demonstrates interest in our history by asking and quizzing me with many questions. I invite you to assist me in placing the wreaths on our heroes' resting places Saturday morning. By the way, because I also researched Cristo Rey, Started at 8 with my research and we are at 26. Journey together. Let's journey together. Let's learn together. Thank you for listening. And on this journey, please don't forget the mental life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Garza?
What time are the wreaths gonna be laid in?
We're going to start at 10 in the morning at the front of the courthouse, and then we will go to each our designated area of service.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes,
Ms. Garza.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Moving on to item number 5, disciplinary and committee reports, municipal court.
Mayor, there's a report in the packet, very short. I can read off of the report. There was no payments collected, no citations issued, no court held for anyone this month. And that was the end of the report.
Excellent. Moving on to code compliance.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Mr. Wright. The code enforcement report for the month of December was in your packet for review. I'd like to update Council that at 607, which is really 603 Lalo Gonzalez Street, the property owner did reach out to us to provide her an estimate since she's not gonna be able to do the maintenance on her own after all. So we're pending that estimate, and also for her to, if she agrees on the estimate, to execute the agreement and pay the fees. Also on the,
Oh, that.
yes, sir. Okay, I spoke to the property owner during the week, and I did a research and I did find partial payment on it, but that was for something else. That was to pick up some concrete material from the property. So at this point, we're just trying to see if she's gonna do a complete cleanup, which will require an additional amount, or what she's gonna proceed with. Yes, sir, I did. Yes. I spoke to her, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I spoke to her on Tuesday and on Wednesday also. Yes, sir. The gentleman, Mr. Joel, went out there with me to inspect the property. Thank you. If there is any other questions on the report that was submitted, that's all I had to update. Yes, sir.
How to measure, how to get proper data throughout the city. It fluctuates wider, shorter.
Right.
So I don't know if you have the right method, has given you the correct way how to do it.
Okay.
We don't have an ordinance on that. Currently, by correct, Mr. Mayor?
The ordinance simply prohibits the placement of signs on public property or rights of way controlled by the city. It doesn't say,
No measurements.
no. I think in practice, I think because of the reasons that we discussed, there's basically we're going to presume that this is right of way if it's within where the utility lines are or 5 feet from the roadway. And if the owner disputes that, let them come in and tell us.
It fluctuates, but that's why there is some areas that you can't go by better than you that can't be going by that. What?
So, yeah.
Yes, sir. If I can explain,
there's a few areas within the city where you have some 25-foot easement, there's some areas that have a 10-foot easement.
So that's what I probably with you in regards of that, because it fluctuates on the right of way.
So- So the information the city has to go by, which would be on the appraisal district's CAD, anybody can actually go to the appraisal district website and pull up the Cotulla CAD. If you look at that, you're gonna see that determination of where an easement is very vague. You have properties that are showing in the middle of streets, you have properties that show no easement at all. Then you have properties that are showing 20-foot easement when there's not even actually a 20-foot easement there.
Right.
You know, we made a decision, we said 5 feet, and there are some cases that I do know that the easement is bigger. At that point, we said that, we would, if it is in one of those areas, we'd do it by case basis.
Correct.
So, but generally blanket, the city is 5 feet, is what
Right.
we're going by.
So what I'm probably requesting, if possible, that new cat that you said is not updated.
Yeah, that's,
It is?
well, we'd have to talk through the appraisal on that one.
Correct, that's what I'm saying,
So-
we gotta probably communicate.
Yeah, we did actually have a meeting with them today on the city limits.
Okay.
And we gave our engineer the update of city limits, and they're creating a map for the appraisal that all three entities, the appraisal, city of Cotulla, and the school can use. So it seemed that each entity had deviations of the maps.
Right.
You know, and we corrected that today.
Okay.
The CAD is a beast. It is, if you look at it, and, you know, me being very uneducated about it, just me looking at it, it's citywide, there's an issue.
Right.
You know, I mean, and we, you know, there is a need to move the signs within the, you know, out of the city easement, but there's no way to tell, and there's no measurement or anything like that.
Like the information I spoke to you and Mr. Peña,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, probably just communicate with the, I guess, the election committee, your ordinance in regards to that. And I don't know if you did, she can probably brief them on that issue also.
Yes. Do you have anything on that, Georgia? So I did talk to Georgia about it, and the ordinance is actually, Georgia issues a binder to every person that runs for election.
Sure.
In that binder, the ordinance is currently there, and it's always been there as long as she's had it.
Yeah, but not, I believe this year, the county's gonna be doing the election for the city, am I correct? So they probably need to do that. And you'll be giving one to them, to the election committee. Okay. The other question I had for you, do you do occupancy on businesses in downtown? Or
Yes,
do
sir,
you
but
have the title or experience on doing that, or do we have to get Annabelle to do that?
I can answer that one, but I'd like to go back to the political signs.
Okay.
So at first, I was given a 50-foot right-of-way standard for everybody. So when I did the rounds on that one, there was only 2 signs that were not within the 50-foot right-of-way, and again, the streets vary. So I went with the standard. After y'all had that meeting last week, it was moved to 5 feet from the curb. So since then, I had 3 signs, I believe I looked at yesterday, and they were all within the 5 feet. So I am using the 5 feet from the edge of the street or curb or whatever is there.
Ms.
And-
Canada?
Said it's pivoted, so my question is, what are we gonna do? Are they gonna be removed? Or they're gonna be asked to move them in? Because they are,
Compliance has the authority to remove the sign. At that point, the property is returned to the candidate. So, but she does have the authority to remove them.
But that's if they're within the 5 feet. The ones that I
Correct.
checked were past there was one right at 6 and one right at 5, but they
Yeah.
were within the,
That's the best we can do.
okay.
5 feet, 5 feet.
I have the city wheel that I met from the edge of the, if there's no curb, it's from the edge of the roadway. Yes, sir. And again, I showed Mr. Tucci yesterday, if you stand in front of the street and actually look, there's some smaller, narrower areas and some wider ones along the same street, but we went with whatever was in front of the sign.
And yeah, next question that I was asking about, are you issuing occupancy?
Okay, so the certificate of occupancy, I did receive some concerns regarding businesses that didn't have them. So I went and I made the rounds, they don't have any. When I came and questioned at the front office, I was informed that they're only issued for new construction or major repairs or upgrades, so, or additions. So I did meet with the building inspector official, and what I was informed was that I can go and check, but if they don't have them, I'm limited to sending them to the office to question or see why they don't have them, but I can't enforce them not having them because that's a building code issue. It's not code enforcement. I'm not licensed, no, sir, to do. That would be our building official. Yes, sir, I did. I met with her last week on Thursday and we had about a 45-minute conversation on those, but they're not issuing them unless it's a new construction or like a major addition, major upgrade. So, I mean, like for me, that ends there. I don't have authority to do anything else.
She's saying,
Best I could say is, I have to ask the question if it was a new business. So I'm learning this as we're speaking right now. And I have to ask, was it a new business that was put in at that time, and did they ask for occupancy because of that reason? So,
Usually the certificate of occupancy, you build, and it is done by Amazon. Usually, usually the buildings that have been in our city and the businesses that have been open in our city for a very long time, they're kind of like grandfathered in way back in the eighties or nineties, whenever they.
well, these businesses that I brought up, that they're new, they're not, so I don't see why, if they are new, like you mentioned, they're new, they are new. I mean,
Yeah, if they're new, they need
you get clarification, right? Well, I am aware of what you just told me,
yeah,
and there are existing buildings that have a new business. So I need to get clarification.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
Pues, businesses are though?
I just went along all of Maine and checked those that are on Maine, the most recent ones. And then what I did is, since I don't know when they became in existence, so I went to go check with the front office to see when they had started their business. Some of them were in March and some of them were in April. So that's fairly new because the codes were adopted back in, I think it was like 2011. It was the most recent amendment to the ordinance. So since 2011, when you adopt your codes, you're supposed to follow the codes.
With the way that, who does the inspections inside the businesses that have, exit signs that are not indicated?
That
And I
would
leave
be,
it up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That would be the building official, Miss Sanibel. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No other question. Thank you, ma'am.
No other questions?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to water and wastewater.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Mr. Wright. For the month of November, we had seven out of our 8 samples, tested negative. We had one did test positive for coliform, and that is usually, could be human error, could be dust particles that get into the water. We did our repeat samples, took them in the next day. We took them in that Monday because it fell on the weekend. And those tests, along with those wells, our raw water well samples came back negative. The Aquifer is sitting at 539 feet. Our water demand for November was 27,294,000 gallons with a daily demand of 931,433 million gallons per day. And as I mentioned last month, our swimming pool well had gone down. The motor we called Peerless, they came out, megged the motor, found out it was grounded. So we were still pending a quote. For the total repairs, we don't have that quote yet. We did take, they did take the motor, so roughly that, to have that motor rewound, because it's a bigger motor, it's a 350 horsepower motor. It's it's in the neighborhood of $15,000. The VFD went out on it, and that the VFD is what starts the motor slow before it ramps up to the RPMs that it needs to run. That was out, so that was 30. The total on that one was 38,000. We had contactors that were replaced. That was an additional 4,000 compared to what new ones would be, and they ran about $12,000. So altogether, right now, I'm assuming that we're going to be looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 62,000 for total cost. But until we get the total cost from Peerless, we won't know until then. But it's somewhere right now.
That's the one by the swimming pool?
Yes, sir.
That's the well that was built in 2015.
Yeah, the super well.
So, yeah, so electrician, we had two different electricians go out there and take a look at it, and they revert back to what we've always been told, to where there was a power surge. They feel a power surge went through the system, burned out the VFD, burned out the contactors, and burned out the electric motor, which runs the pump. This is considered an emergency. We can't let it sit there and wait for anything. So Peerless Equipment, which is generally who we've used in the past, they came out, they made the repairs. They will be invoicing us at the point we receive invoices. We're going to put them on the agenda for ratification. At that fact, being that they're saying that, and if I can get it in writing from them that it was due to a power surge, we will be making an insurance claim to get reimbursement for it. So, and we've done this before, and the insurance companies, they've never denied us on this specific item. So we usually get our money back.
That's good.
Excellent.
So when when things like this happen, we gotta move quickly because we're down to 2 wells, production, demand, we just won't keep up. So even with the 2 other wells, we get concerned.
So you got 3 running currently, right?
We have three running currently. The well at the courthouse is out of service. The old well number 6 is also out of service, abandoned, like the courthouse is. So you have a well by the new fire station, you have a well at Buckley Street, and you have a water well over on Cherokee and Choctaw, which is considered a swimming pool well, being that the city pool used to be there. So.
Also, the city has reached out to the Texas Water Development Board about using the funds that were left over from our Well 9 project, so we can install new AMR meters. With the new meters, the city will be able to have accurate readings in real time. We'd be able to the meters will be able to detect the leak. How major the leak is, if it's just like a little bit going through, or if it's a lot. And on some of the new meters, you can see where it says leak and it says flow, of course, meaning that they're using the meter. And also when customers come in and they have a concern about their water bill, we will be able to pull up that data and show them in the time that the meter was actually spinning or there was water being used at that time. And like I said, right now we reached out to them. It looks like we will be able to use it, use those funds. So if everything goes well and everything is approved, we will be installing these new meters, and we're looking at somewhere in the time frame around May that have an answer for that.
How many meters are you gonna install?
Right now, I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of around 1,600.
1,600.
We put in at least anywhere from 200 to 300 meters.
We're also, AMR system, let me jump back, Texas Water Development Board. The loans, the low interest loans and grants that the city got in 2015, I believe it was somewhere around 15 to 16 million at that time. That is the money that we're using, which we built the elevated storage tank. We've built 2 wells with that money. Right now, currently, we have $1.8 million left in construction funds. AMR system is projected to cost the city around $600,000. The portion of the money that we're using is total, it's all forgiveness or grant money. That's what we have left. AMR is gonna streamline the system, and it's gonna take out the human error. It's gonna take out the human error in the field, it's gonna take out the human error in the office. So everything will be streamlined, we'll be able to see what it is and make sure it's accurate. I've had concern, we've talked about octave and master meter, which we had here years ago, and we had a lot of problems with those meters, which were digital meters. Very leery, Ken Strepp, or Secure Vision of America in 2017 donated 10 meters to the city of Cotulla. And at that time, it was like, we're not gonna do anything, you can give them to us, but we'll put them in the system and that's all we're gonna do. Well, 2017 came and went, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and we've had no problems with their meters. The biggest concern that we had with master meters, they couldn't handle the heat. The water's hot and they couldn't handle it. These meters are holding up and they're doing what they're prescribed to do, and we really think it's a good time to proceed with it. Last meeting, we also had an approval to proceed with AMR, CDM Smith, Stacy Barna. When we get our final quotes, we will come back to council for approval. Not only the meters, we are asking for all the meter boxes. We're asking for, there's meter tails, which the customer connects their line to. We're asking for all the parts associated also.
Right.
So that we get a whole new system for the customer. Over time, I really think it's gonna work out. They're gonna be accurate. Meters get old, they become inaccurate, it is true. Usually it's not in the city's favor, 99% of the time, it's not in the city's favor. So it's gonna help us and it's gonna improve,
Yeah, this has been a discussion with me and Mr. Davalina in 2016, 17. And we really, he said he wanted a way to make sure that these water meters could actually hold heat. And it looks like it's been, what, 7 years now?
Yeah.
5 years?
Every master meter, we have 322 commercial connections. Master meter, every single one of them failed multiple times, which means they warranted it and it failed again, and then they gave up. They said, no, we're not gonna warranty it no more. They just left us in the dark. And this company's, they're cheaper and they're better. And it's gonna work out really well for us.
Do you have a specific location where you're gonna start the meters?
Well, that there, what we're looking to do is we're looking to do a force account. Nobody knows our water system better than the staff that's here currently. So we're looking to do a force account. We're gonna designate staff to start changing out meters. We haven't looked at what location we're gonna start yet. The other thing too is the payroll for the staff to change out the meter, so it'll be paid through Texas Water Development. So it gives staff an opportunity, maybe a few hours overtime, or it gives them that opportunity, because they do have other duties, so they can make a little extra.
Where's going to be the main source, I guess, to have the computer and all that? Is that the main office? Or?
So there's 2 ways of doing this. The original approach was that we would have a computer mounted in a truck with an antenna, and one person would drive the whole city theoretically in a half a day and get all the readings. That is what we're proposing. There's another way where they have an antenna at City Hall and the whole city goes directly to City Hall. The issue with that is that we're removing the interaction with the customer and the employee. you know, when they're driving around, at least they see them, if they have to get off and get closer because it's not reading, typically that's because of metal boxes, you know, that they can do that. And the customer can talk to them. You know, that, Mr. Dovalina, I believe the mayor and council at the time felt that that was probably more reasonable.
Would that company also, I guess, supply you with a main base there at the office and one laptop to carry on that vehicle?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to purchase the tablets or the laptops, and what they'll do is and I've seen it, we've done it ourselves already to see how it works. The signal hits the laptop and it populates all the readings, and then we take that to City Hall and it gets uploaded into our current Edmonds GovTech system, and it does everything. It populates the bill and does everything without anybody having to do it, touch it.
So, Mr. Wright, with the daily statements will go out earlier to the customer.
That's the hope. So if we're not having to, right now, when the guys manually read the meters,
Right.
they gotta, you know, they get covered, every month they get covered with dirt because of the ants and the hot water, so they migrate to it. They gotta clean it, they gotta read it. They write the number in a book with their handwriting. They take it to the office. The clerk in the office takes every single reading, which is 1,700 readings, and she enters it under every account, and it populates. It takes all that out of the process, so there's a lot of possibility for human error. There's a lot of possibility that, oh, I just don't wanna read it. You know, it takes all that away. So,
So with those meters, that new system we're trying to implement,
Mhm.
would the outside customers, outside the city limits, would that still bring their reading in, or would we do it ourselves?
currently, we're reading every meter in town, inside, outside city limits. So in the past, there was a point in time when customers were told, well, you can give us our reading and we'll use that one.
Right.
But we still read it. So it was more like, oh, if there was a trust issue or something like that, they would give it to us.
Also, the city of Cotulla has had a program that's called ESRI for the gas department, which has all the gas mains, meters, valves, and we also decided to take advantage of this and add our water and sewer systems in there as well to help us keep track of water leaks, how good when we install new water lines, sewer lines. It would also help us so we can add the year, the date of when they were installed. And also, like whenever we do a leak, we could be there and with your phone or an iPad, they can document what was done, and that will help us determine when those lines are needed to be upgraded, replaced. So, and hopefully we will be able to have that within these next couple of months, up and running. But uh, we do have it on the ESRI. They're already there, but we will have to add where the meters are at, where the valves are at, so that can help us whenever we like I said, whenever there's an issue, we can document it on that ESRI, so it can tell us where in the future the high risk areas are. So.
Esri's software, is software that can be on a laptop or a tablet once again, and we can work it in real time. So a person in the field sees a water leak, they put in GPS coordinates into the software and say there was a water leak here. Most important thing about that is when we have a line that has 6 and 8 water leaks, we have a record of them. We say, okay, now it's time to change that. Same thing with the gas system. Talk to Jimmy, and it's a little bit out of his purview, and I'm going to talk to Robbie about it also. But Esri also has the capability to put streets, full infrastructure for the city. Age of street, okay, this street needs to have work done, or we can put all that on there. Potholes, you name it, we can put it there. You know, and it's an excellent tool for staff moving into the future. I mean, we know, Jimmy knows what he knows. I know what I know. Jesse knows what he knows. And when we're not here, nobody knows what we know. So moving forward, we have documentation of this. And the next person that comes, they're gonna say, oh, here it is. You know, and unfortunately, we all learned the hard way. We had to figure it out. And this takes that takes it out of the, totally out. So we're really thinking about the future, and we're thinking about, you know, sustainability. You know, right now, the way it is, you lose people, you lose that knowledge, and that's it. So,
How's the status on the generators? They're ready? Just in
okay, yeah,
case.
let's speak about that. Hazardous mitigation plan, which was needed to actually get the grants from Tatum for the generator project. There was a $85,000 grant for the hazardous mitigation plan. There was a rush to complete it, because we needed that for the 2.5 million that we're going after. I had a meeting with Tatum last week, and, their comment was, is being that the plan was started before you were awarded, we're not gonna cover the grant. So at the point of the award, that's where they're gonna start covering the grant. We did from award to now, that's what they'll cover. So there's gonna be a dollar amount that the city's gonna have to pay. But I would say that's a drop in the bucket compared to a $2.5 million grant. You know, Mr. Dovalina rushed it, and there's plenty of good reason why he did that. You know, we didn't wanna lose that $2.5 million. So they're telling us that they have the application, they were actually gonna check the status. They don't believe that there's any issue why we won't be awarded. So, and that's where we were left in the meeting.
And you're talking about 2 generators, right?
Correct, this is 2 generators, they're giving us a total of 2.5 million, and I think for diesel, we were looking at 1.9 to get the project done. And, you know, every month the prices are going up, so hopefully we make it.
But for this year, we're ready to, in case something happens, we do have generators.
Jamie, so we talked about December, January, February, or half of December?
January.
Okay, January, February, that's what it was.
And those generators are gonna be installed in the water wells?
We're gonna have them on site at our Buckley well, and then the well by the swimming pool, Cherokee Choctaw. The reason we're doing it there is we have automatic transfer switch, and then
For the 2 wells?
yeah, and then the Buckley well has a breaker that it can be connected to easily compared to the other, or compared to the other well by the fire station.
By the fire station.
Right. So we're gonna be prepared, and believe me, I'll be the first to say that I don't wanna ever see that happen again.
Yeah.
So.
Better be safe than sorry.
You got it.
Any other questions for Jimmy?
No, sir, thank you, Jim.
You got more in your report, Dick?
Yes. On the wastewater, this week, the contractor called me, we went out Friday, I'm sorry, it was last week they called, Friday we went out. Also, the sewer line that they have, in place right now, we went and checked to make sure that there were no blockages. We walked, the entire sewer line, all the manholes up to the point of the bore. They were all clear. There were no blockages in the line. So next week, we're supposed to do a pressure test on sections of the line to make sure that it holds the pressure. And once that is done, we're just waiting on the bore, and then we'll do the pressure test there and make sure there's no blockages, and we should have that sort of. But right now, we're just waiting on the bore, and
I contacted the company direct, because I was to inquire about the bore, because it should have been done already more than a month ago. And I asked them if there was any problems, and they told me there's no issues, we're just having a schedule, contractor that's gonna come and do it. At that time, I also asked him, do we owe you money? Is there anything at all? And he said, no, everything's fine, it's just that the contractor we're gonna have do the bore is busy, and we're trying to get him out here. So we were left at that.
97, right?
Yes, it's the Highway 97. So I did call Don Berger from Tetra Tech, which is the engineer on the project, and I asked him to draft a letter from the city of Cotulla to the contractor, that occurred, and it's in his possession. They haven't replied to the letter yet. We're pretty much requesting at this point, a schedule of completion, but they haven't replied to it yet.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Jimmy, will you be doing gas also?
Yes, sir. For the month of November, we had 5 gas leaks that were repaired. We had 28 locates, and the city. I was informed that the city will be having a drug and alcohol DOT audit with the Railroad Commission January 24th. So from the 24th, or excuse me, the 29th in the February, we'll be doing that railroad audit. Then also the gas price, gas price was $4.26 per cubic foot, with 2,458 cubic feet going through the city gate.
So as far as this audit, we have a company that facilitates the drug test for the city of Cotulla for the gas department. And the Railroad Commission requires it that way. So there are random drug tests for the gas department. This company sends over to Miss Bianca the list of people that need to go, and we send them, and, we send them the results. Pretty much the audit will be facilitated through PATS, which is the company that does it. So we'll be there also, but they're the ones that are gonna have to answer any questions, really.
It's not done here locally, am I correct?
They were going to Dilly, and I believe the facility in Dilly closed, and now Bianca's trying to get, hometown healthcare. She's trying to see if they'll be able to do it. There's certain certifications that the business has to have to do the drug test. And I think that she believes that hometown healthcare has it. South Texas Rural Health is also inquired, but I don't believe they have the certification at this point to do it.
And is it hair follicle or is it?
No, these are urinalysis. We haven't done hair follicle for some years now. And I really don't even know if there's anywhere in the area that does it at this point.
I don't really know that.
But they require urinalysis, and that's what they're doing.
Just for the railroad commission. Right?
Railroad Commission, yes.
How many employees do you have that has a license with the gas department?
None.
None.
We have the computer there, the education's there. He's put a requirement on staff to have it within 6 months, which is reasonable. I did it in a week.
We have one.
So yeah, there'd be me, but actually in the department, no.
Is it required or not?
Absolutely. It definitely is. So, but the motivation or to get, I don't want to sound bad, but I've opened up education to everybody in the city, and it's very sporadic who comes and takes it up. And I don't know what else to do. We're willing to pay 100%.
Yeah.
So.
No other questions.
Any other reports there, Jimmy?
No, sir.
Thank you very much for that report. Street and parks.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Wright. Our street personnel in collaboration with our code enforcement officer cut overgrown grass and trimmed trees at residents on 607 and 608 Johnson Street, and the customer paid the fee. We also utilize the skid steer tractor to remove grass and dirt from curbs on various streets within the city. We also assisted Cotulla Main Street and the Parks and Recreation was setting up Christmas trees and decorations at the Plaza Florita and Veterans Park. And we also assisted the Parks and Recreation by mowing the grass at the Plaza Florita and the Martinez Park. And we're still continuing to cut grass and trim trees and pick up miscellaneous debris on the alley to make it durable for our garbage trucks. My report. Entertain any questions?
Any questions, Councilman?
I have a question, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir.
How often do you all clean curbs?
How often do y'all clean curbs?
When we have a chance. I mean, we try to do it. I mean, I try to keep when we can do it, but right now we've been pretty busy with the grass.
You having an issue with the sweeper, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, for that report.
David,
Yes.
before Robert leaves, I know it's one of the categories on the agenda about the auction.
Yes.
Who will handle that?
I went and asked Ricky if he'd be willing, because he does all the auctions for the county and he knows how to do it. And his comment to me was absolutely, I'll do it for you anytime. So I said, give me a quote so I can get a quote and we'll bring it over here so that it can be approved.
When you do this auction, is it possible for the city to take pictures of the items that are in auction, will be on auction, and have people that cannot be there that day to put a bid
Yes, we can do that.
on site?
So we can do that. I wouldn't want, after they bid on it, I wouldn't want to retain the equipment for too long.
Correct.
But we can
Correct.
work with people like that.
Correct. And this doesn't pertain to him, but I'll probably ask you after everybody speaks. This is an item that you probably can answer.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thomas. Sanitation.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Mr. Wright. In your package, you'll have my transfer station solid waste monthly report for November 2023. 28 total trips were done by the rollout, 27 to the landfill, and 1 to the Meadow Wilkinson in Carrizo Springs. Commercial residential pickup, we had 295.25 tons of trash picked up for the month of November, which is the equivalent of 590,500 pounds of trash. 6 containers were from the transfer station for 40.27 tons, 80,540 pounds. That's the citizen collection that people go on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And that metal that was taken to Wilkinson was 3.88 tons for 7,760 pounds. Also, one of the new garbage truck was required a DOT state inspection. And of course, it's a brand new, I had no problems with it, and it did pass state inspection and registration, has been obtained. Also, it's not in your monthly report, but I would like to inform everybody, it will be posted on the website and on social media. The trash pickup for the holidays are as normal, with the exception of Christmas Day, which is Monday 25th, which is from the weekend, which will be Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then New Year's Day, 24th, no trash pickup for commercial or residential, again, coming from a 3-day weekend. And we'll assume normal trash pickup for the community, for the business, as normal. The transfer station will be open both Saturday and Sunday, the week of Christmas, and Saturday and Wednesday and Saturday, the week of Christmas, and Wednesday and Saturday, the week of New Year's.
So the branch,
I believe the branch will be closer. No branch collect, is that correct? No branch collection will be taken. Yes, for the week of, only on Saturday. It will be open on Wednesday during the week.
David, when is the next city Tracharama?
We do not have one scheduled.
Not at this time.
After spring comes.
All right. Okay. Thank you. No questions. No, sir.
Some of you, before the year is over, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Animal control. Doug.
Good evening, council members, Mayor, Mr. Wright. For the month of November, I had a total of four quarters. I had 2 dogs adopted locally, 8 dogs that were rescued, 2 dogs that were returned to to the owners, a total of 8 deceased animals out, that were picked up off the street. No dogs were euthanized, and a total of 20 dogs that were picked up, and no animals caught in traps. Kennel the kennels are clean and sanitized daily. Dogs and cats were fed daily. I don't have any cats at the moment. And the dogs that were rescued were transported to Austin, where they are fostered and adopted out. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
No, sir.
Thank you very much for that report, Mr. Gonzalez. Moving on to Main Street.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Mr. Wright. So I presented you your packet. If you have any questions, I will entertain them right now. What is not on your packet is Stockman's Bank. Stockman's Bank has been completed. We are pending only the lights. So we will be turnkey ready for the first week of February and do a grand opening at that time and a ribbon cutting. We are going to be assisted by Frank Architects for the plaque because of the previous council and administrator. So we want to make sure that the plaque is correct. So at the next meeting, we will present a draft to you guys for approval and then have that ready for the building the day of the grand opening in February. We're just waiting for the lights, and then we will schedule the city crews to go and clean it up and, do the dusting and, but it is ready. As of yesterday, we were notified.
And this is the downstairs lights that were approved 2 meetings ago.
Correct.
So they are on order, they are on back order at this point.
And they were on back order, so that's the only thing. And then we have the holidays coming up, so we're just giving them enough time and, but it is ready. So we will do a final punch list, with Mr. Wright, and then after the holidays and everything, and then we'll be good to go. And also, we do have an event on Saturday. You do have that flyer. The event is going to be, Mr. Page is going to help us. So it is Santa's coming to the airport and he's going to be coming in via helicopter. We have a whole skit played out. It's going to be Cookies with Santa. And the plot twist is kind of the Grinch is going to show up and intervene and try to avoid Santa taking the letters to the North Pole. So the Grinch. And so, we're going to do that. Something different. Mr. Page did offer to assist us with that. One of our neighboring communities did that, and it was on the main street. Notifications of, hey, this is what they're doing down the street. You guys, for anybody. So we went ahead and jumped on the bandwagon and tried something new and see what kind of feedback we get. And I appreciate Mr. Wright for putting up with my shenanigans and just, letting us go with it. And you guys for your support. I would really appreciate your support out there on Saturday. It's from 4 to 5. And it's gonna be Cookies with Santa. So, any questions?
You did receive a donation for this event, is that correct?
I did, sir.
That will be on the next
On the next
agenda meeting
agenda.
for the council to accept that donation.
I have a question, Margie.
sir.
On the light on the Stockmans, I see the hardware is missing on the doors. Is that gonna be taken care of also?
Yes, that's actually what they're waiting for. Actually, today, whenever I called him, because I saw it myself, so he said that Mr. Barajas was doing that today.
Sorry, I stepped out for a little while.
You're fine.
I have a couple of questions. I see that the Plaza Florida parking and restrooms facility. Am I correct, David, that the contractor should update us on the status of
Yes, so
the
we're
project?
gonna have our first construction meeting on Thursday next week at 2:30. if the council wants the contractor to come to the council meeting, we'll make that happen.
I would like that.
Okay. Does everyone else feel that way?
I think it's in the best interest of.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good, then I'll make that happen.
And the next question for you, Ms. Margie, I think I already spoke to Mr. David on regards of the electrical plugs there at the Veterans Park that needs to be updated. Has that been resolved?
To my knowledge, yes, the electrician has gone out and he's replaced receptacles. We called this week for the gazebo, because the gazebo, the breaker was tripping for the Christmas lights. And he went out and, as far as I know, he took care of
He
it.
took care of it, yes, sir. So basically what's happening is we're finding out when we're doing our plugins, and that's how we're finding out. So as soon as we are aware of the issue, I come back and I tell Mr. Wright, and then we get on it, and it'll be like the next day.
There's gonna come a point when you come to council with a project to the entire park.
Yeah.
Turn the park to its originality with electrical upgrades and all that, that'll all be part of it.
I have a question, sorry.
Okay.
The school approached me on the Plaza Florita, if we could delay the project a little bit, simply because they have their senior dance, probably the eighth grade dance. And I believe their event they want to hold their event in April. And I'm wondering if we can wait a little bit, or,
We're definitely more than a year out on it.
okay,
Okay, maybe 2 years out on it.
so are we okay to let those? Okay.
The city, we definitely need to take into consideration of available funds in the hot tax. And that's gonna kind of motivate the time frame of how we do all this.
If the delay is gonna happen, so there will not be an additional payment if requested by him, am I correct? Until he starts again?
Yeah, the contractor is not gonna get paid for work that he hasn't done. So between the architect, engineer, they determine what level of work has been completed.
Okay.
And what he puts in of how much he's claiming, they'll rebuke that if it's not what they believe it to be.
So they're starting off with a ritual.
Yeah, it looks like he's got the form out there to put the concrete in the restroom.
Yeah, the engineer is the one that
Right.
takes a look at everything, and then he approved the draw, and it comes to us.
So they sign off, their recommendation on payment is solely from our engineers or our architects. And after that, it comes to council.
Yeah, he can't say, hey, let me have some money, it
No.
doesn't work, no,
It doesn't work that way.
it's a process.
Has any payment been done so far?
We have paid $169,000, which was approved through council last month.
And is there any way that we, the council, can see what this amount of money is be paid for what
Yeah, there's a payment
work?
schedule that, get that.
Okay.
That's a big.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Stuff like that he's done to date.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kelly. The best one. Kelly tells us what we can do and what we can't.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Mr. Wright. We're gonna start with the sales tax for the month of December. The city collected $158,997. That's a little low. Typically, we want it to be up there, north of 190,000. But there was some other, construction going on that could have delayed, any of that. But, on the next page is the hotel motel tax collections. For November, the city collected $832, which is the second month, and the first quarter right now is at $161,517. And the next page is going to be page 6, and that's going to be the general fund totals. Year to date, general fund total, the total revenue is $537,573. Total expenditures are $375,642, which is a net income of $161,930. On the next page or on page 9 is gonna be the water sewer, total. Total year to date for the water sewer fund, total revenue $275,994. Total expenditures $174,432, which nets the city $101,561. On page 12 is going to be the municipal gas funds. It's page 11, sorry. Total revenue for the municipal gas fund year to date is $91,944. Total expenditures $32,651, which is a net income of $59,293. On page 13 is going to be the solid waste department total. Total solid waste revenue year to date is $140,194. Total expenditures is $135,492, which is a net income of $4,701. On the last report attached is going to be the check register. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have several questions, sir.
Sir.
Page number 2, in the middle section where it says audit. It shows the amount that is paid out. When was that audit made?
That audit, we submitted our information to the audit. Probably. When did we pay them? What audit? That was last year's audit. I think we completed everything and submitted the information in August. I'm not too sure when they requested the money. Yeah, but that was for the financial statement audit for 2022.
Okay, good. So it doesn't say the year or date or month or year.
Yeah, I mean, so just assuming that it was probably, the money was probably sent out after October 1. So that was included in this year, but it was a last year's purchase.
Okay, and on page number 3,
That's
has
for the vehicles and all that.
What's that?
That was for the vehicles in 2022.
No,
For the
so
audit.
that was for the audit for the financial statements. We send our financials to get, looked at to get an expert opinion on, how valid the information is.
and
Yes, sir.
Those audits are required, and we have loans through Texas Water Development Board, and the city has interest in getting other grants and services from the state. They required those audits. There was actually a meeting with Texas Water Development Board this week on Monday. They came down. Because of our audits, they have a concern. And their concern is that they feel the city is not bringing in enough revenue to pay their loan. And this goes back to where, we're talking about rate study and having some increases. It was very cordial, very, very nice, and they asked this question, and what are you doing, and how are you gonna fix this, and stuff like that. And they were told how we were gonna fix it, and it seems that they were okay with that. The way they work though is if we don't do what we say, or we don't fix it, they're coming, and they're gonna fix it.
Correct.
So these audits go to these entities after they're completed, and they see it, and that's what happened.
on page number 3, David, maybe you can answer this. Has the city ever have like a fire inspection
Fire inspection for hotel,
smoke alarms? No, for the city itself.
for city ourselves.
City itself.
There's a company that does that. They come in for the fire extinguishers, and I know we're paying a monitoring fee. The sprinkler.
City.
No, just really the reason is because there's a zero amount of money, and I'm just wondering, have you done one lately? Because I think it's
Then they go to
The city will do here, the street or
the department.
the department truck. Also have fire extinguisher that they.
Do you have an employee that does like an inspection once a month? Probably, because I don't know if when they do the inspection, they'll check your paperwork that you're.
I mean, that would be able, but the way, you gotta have a company that's licensed with the state specific for fire sprinklers, backflow prevention for fire sprinklers, not like, nobody can touch it.
Correct.
You know, so no, we have them come in and it's once a year is what they do. That's what we're,
Oh, like a safety officer, you know.
yeah,
that's it.
they're certified under the state fire marshal or something like that.
Do they also check the fire hydrants?
They do
For
not,
pressure?
we do that. So on a monthly basis, we flush dead end mains and we check pressures throughout the city. We also check the chlorine residuals in dead end. Make sure that there's a proper amount of chlorine.
My last question for you, Mr. Garcia, page number 9. Towards 3/4 of the page down, where it says bond interest. What is that bond interest? What is it for?
I think that has something to do with the Texas Water Development Board.
That would be the interest on our loans. Correct.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you, sir.
No.
Any questions for Garcia on the?
Does.
No, thank you very much for that report, Mr. Garcia.
And my last question that I found to ask you, David, has the city created an organizational chart so far?
We have one that's, Mello has it, and we can provide it.
But can you provide it? Okay, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll have it for the next meeting. We'll give it to the council.
Okay, thank you.
On to item number 6, approval of minutes, November 9, 2023. And if you had a chance to look over the minutes,
Yes, sir.
Ms. City Secretary, was there any changes to make with the minutes? If you did have a chance to review the minutes, I see the first motion, Phil, provider of the first motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Cotulla. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Moving on to item number 7, discussion of possible action on a resolution of the city council of Cotulla, Texas, nominating its 55th votes for the election of one or more member to the LaSalle County Appraisal District Board of Directors, declaring a public purpose, incorporating recitals, providing a repeller, and setting an effective date. I believe we do this every year, and I believe we selected Mr. Zamora, is that correct? Correct. So if you guys don't have a question on item number 7, I see the first motion.
Can I ask a question before you go any further? How many can we select? Just one? Or just-
Yeah.
There's one, and what I'm told is, of course, there's a learning curve here, but what I'm told is that the city does not have enough votes to make any difference in the selection.
Correct.
So if we wanted to do anything, we'd have to team up with another entity to make it happen. Historically, the vote has gone to Mr. Alfredo Zamora, and that's what the city or staff is recommending.
And we've kept up with the county.
Okay.
Probably do the same thing again.
Okay.
So I see your first motion to approve item number 7.
Aye.
First motion was for the Duke, second one for Ayala, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Moving on to item number 8, discussion of possible action on a request made by the LaSalle County Chamber of Commerce requesting for permission of the use of the electronic community center with fee waived on January 30th, February 6th, the 13th, the 20th of 2023 to host candidate town hall meeting.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor. Right. Here, if you guys have any questions, what we're looking to do, we've had one meeting on this because we were waiting. I know this week everybody had to finalize their candidacy. But what we're thinking, what we want to do on those Tuesdays, those 4 Tuesdays that are mentioned, have a night for anybody running for councilman position to come speak, have it open to the city, the county, and have another night for the sheriff, anybody running for sheriff, anybody running for a county position, and we are open to opening it up to district positions as well, depending on how
positions are open and how many people are running. But we want to choose those 4 nights to host for people to come together. If anybody has questions for these people that are running, we hear lots of questions for us that we can't answer. So we want to have that open for people to come and have their questions answered with the candidates there.
Do you already have, from what time to what time are you gonna have it here?
We want to start at 6, and then it depends on, like I said, we've had 1 meeting, so we don't know how many people we need to incorporate into these 4 nights.
How long did that one meeting last?
It was about an hour and a half, and it was the week before last. And we wanted to wait till everybody finalized their candidacy, because I believe that ended this week.
So probably each evening that you use the Alexander Convention Center would probably not exceed no more than 2 hours?
Yes, that's what we're thinking.
I have one question. These town hall meetings that you're proposing will be open to every candidate?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, both parties.
That was the only concern the city had.
City and county, and like I said, we want to try to incorporate district as well.
Is any of this going to be broadcast on like a YouTube channel or something?
But, we will be airing.
Councilman, any other questions?
No, sir.
If not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 8. First motion by Mr. Rodriguez, second by Mr. Cotulla, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries, thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 8. Number 9, discussion of possible action on request submitted by the Winter Garden Women's Shelters requesting permission for the use a small conference room at the Alexander Convention Center will be waived on December 20th, 2023 to host their annual Christmas party.
Hello, good evening, Mayor.
Vivian?
I'm here on behalf of Erica Bustamante. She couldn't be here. She's the director of our Winter Garden Women's Shelter. She had another request to see if we could possibly use one of your little rooms for our annual Christmas party for our clients and the children. The last time we had one was in 2019, which I believe was before COVID, and we haven't really done anything for them since then. Usually we just pass out our gifts. We've been doing it from the office. They just drive through and we give them their gifts. So possible, we appreciate it, the request of the usage of one of your little. The museum. And if it's possible to waive it, we're a nonprofit organization, so we appreciate it, the people who waive.
I don't have a problem.
And, from what time are you gonna start?
Maybe 7, the latest.
Councilman, if you don't have any, concerns on another discussion, then go ahead.
The amount of clients that you're serving every time.
Right now, we have 80 registered, because our new year just started in September. Prior to September, we had 120, but some have moved, some have left, but right now we have like 35 to 40 families that have come from. And this includes like single women and women with children.
Mr. Zartucci, Council?
No, I go ahead and approve it.
Okay. If you have no further questions for Ms. D on item number 9, I seek the first motion to approve item number 9. First motion made by Mr. Zartucci, second by Mr. Rodriguez, all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 10, thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, discussion of possible action on request submitted by the Sports Association requesting for the permission of use of the Alexander Convention Center with fee waived on December 13th to banquet for youth sports.
They also submitted a letter, Mayor, to the city.
Is there anybody here to speak on their behalf?
Yeah, am I able to come? I am the vice president. I'm everywhere. I'm here if you guys have any questions. Okay. Okay, we had about 150 people registered between football and volleyball and cheerleading, so I mean, that was wonderful. We held it last night and it was a great turnout. Lots of supporters, we thank them for even allowing us to be here. Very, yeah, it's a lot and we're barely getting off the ground. That was our second football season and we're going into our second basketball season, so, and that was our very first volleyball season, so it's a lot of work, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Yes, I did it myself with the
Oh, yeah.
work. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and people think it's something simple that you can do one year and you have to keep it up, and it's really tiring. I mean, some parents, they're challenged. Any questions on item number 10?
I agree.
If not, I see the first motion to item number 10. First motion by Mr. Lozada, second by Mr. Cotulla. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 11, discussion of possible action on a quote submitted by ACT Pipe and Supply in the amount of $12,591.50 for the cost to replace an old cast iron water line on Leona Street.
All right,
Jimmy?
the water line, it is on Leona. It's gonna be in between, Baylor and Travis Street. It's there in the alley. There's an old cast iron line. We had a leak there, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And the guys went out there, they put a clamp, and not once they put that clamp, it ended up breaking down the line. So, Bessie came up to me on that Monday, and asked me if he could get a quote to replace it, cause that old cast iron line is just gonna keep on breaking, so. We went
How
out,
big is that line?
it's a 6-inch line, so.
Oh, you're not the same size or?
Yeah, it's the same. We did get 3 different quotes. The most expensive one, I believe, was 14,000, and then another one came in at 13,000, and this one was at 12. We brought it so y'all can see the price of the pipe of a 6-inch line. We're doing 600 feet. It's $12.89 a foot. So. We're also putting in a fire hydrant there at the end of the road, the alley. So it'll be a fire hydrant and new water lines along with the services. So
When you put the fire hydrant, is that gonna include like a little piece of concrete or something so the water would not go into people's property when you go and open it up?
we can do that. Because if we put it, we can put it up towards the road and then we'll go on the road, but we can't put up so it won't mess up the road.
That would be a good idea because a lot of the times when we go to these fire hydrants and we open them up, the water seems to go to the people's property and then they're complaining that, the water came in, it's really close to my door, things, et cetera. That would be a very good idea. Councilman, any questions on item number 11?
Just David. I have a question, Jimmy. The amount of time it's gonna take for when you dig it up and like, how long does it take to put any pressure on it because of the garbage stuff that is really out?
It should, at least within the week, it shouldn't take that long. The guys will install the line, they'll make sure it's packed in real good. If it's big rocks, they'll take those out and just try to leave nothing but dirt, so the big rock won't puncture the pipe.
Will the pipe consist of a rock cube around the pipe or not?
No, generally when the pipe is laid, they put sand around it. They have a sand bed around the pipe to stop it from getting any kind of puncture. That's the theory.
On the
It's not like that everywhere.
issue of sending the trash pickup, are we gonna ask the residents to put the trash on adjacent street
It'll,
instead
it'll,
of the alley?
either have to be relocated, or I've also seen them go out in a trailer and pick up trash on a trailer if they don't have access. The access will be weather permitting. If we're getting rain, it's gonna take longer. What we're looking for is for it to dry. Because if it doesn't dry and a trash truck goes through, it's going straight down.
And you have more?
Between the three quotes, I'll say real quick, when we look at this, we are not sacrificing quality of the part. The prices were just different for the same exact thing, so it's still the same quality.
That's good news. Any other questions, Councilman, for Jimmy
No, sir.
or David?
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion
Thank
on item number 11, I seek a first motion to approve item number 11. First motion is made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second. Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 12, discussion and possible action to allow city staff to proceed with a fleet equipment auction.
Mayor, in front of you have a list of equipment that is, aged, not running, it's just broken down. In some instances, it's overgrown in weeds and it's been sitting there for years and years. Several months ago, it was, brought up in the council meeting that maybe we should start having auctions on this equipment versus crushing it and throwing it in a dumpster and selling it for metal. And that's why we're bringing this in front of you, and these are the items, the trucks and equipment that are not working and we would like to auction.
Alderman, did you have a chance to look at the list?
Yes, sir.
Is there any concerns or any questions on the list?
No, sir.
If not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 12.
Aye.
First motion is made by Mr. Sertuche, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 13, report and presentation by Ernie De La Rosa with Areas Consulting on the economic strategic plan progress.
Good evening, Mayor.
Welcome, Mr. De La Rosa. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a condensed version of the note. Make it a little bit easier to follow along. So I wanted to provide an update. I completed the design of the strategic plan, but I wanted to give you a quick Cliff Notes version to give you some time to review the plan so that we can get back. They have the. Oh, okay.
No, they don't have that one, they have the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the shorter version. To give you time to review the plan, answer any questions at a later date, so I can work with Mr. Wright on. To give you some time over the holidays to review the plan, to ask any questions, to get with Mr. Wright. I'm gonna see if Mr. Wright and I can get together maybe before the end of the year to go over each of the items. There's several individual items, task orders to help reach the overall objective of the plan. So I'm just going to briefly go over this and then we can kind of answer any questions and talk about it in depth. So all of this was driven specifically by the responses of the survey and the town hall meetings. So essentially, it's kind of the will of what the residents have expressed interest in what they would like to see for the city of Cotulla moving forward. So just like any other organization, the vision statement and mission statement are extremely important because they're at the essence of what the organization stands for and what they represent. So the draft vision, and of course, this is fluid. So this can be changed at any time based on your input and feedback. We can definitely take a look at this and alter it. But as of right now, the vision statement is basically an inspirational goal of what you want the city to represent in the future. So this is projecting out towards the future. So Cotulla will essentially be a thriving, sustainable community fostering economic growth and a high quality of life for all residents of Cotulla. So that's the essential goal for the city moving forward. The mission statement is what the city does, what they represent, what they stand for. So a connected and resilient Cotulla providing opportunities for all to prosper, preserving its rich cultural heritage and ensuring a sustainable future. That's essentially the key, sustainability. So the city relies tremendously on sales tax, hotel tax, for their operational annual budget. When times are good, it's great. When times aren't so good, times aren't as good. And Mr. Wright and I have had several conversations about this. The Texas Water Board was brought up with the rate study. So this essentially is looking at sustainability in the future, depending on what economic outlook might look like in the future. So the values just basically as at the core of the organization, what this they stand for. So based on the input of the community and the town hall and everything, stakeholder interviews. The values is community, integrity, innovation, sustainability, and excellence. And there's definitions that I'll let you read those, but that's essentially the core values of what the city stands for. Now, when taking this plan into account, there was 4 categories that we wanted to implement. We wanted to have vision, we want having the integration of different systems and communications. We wanted to be focused and we wanted progress. We want to be able to move forward. So through the process of the survey and the town meetings and meetings with some of the individuals on council, we developed a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So your strengths are essentially your internal factors, what works good for the city. So, I mean, I'll just go over a few of them. Strategic location. So Cotulla is set perfectly off of 35, right smack in the middle between Laredo and Cotulla, along 35 corridor, which extends all the way up north to, I forget, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So strategically, we're in a good place. We need to take advantage of that. Now, energy sector is great. It provides hotel occupancy tax with the employees. It brings a lot of revenue. It's brought a lot of money towards Cotulla. Now, the weaknesses are what isn't working well in the city. And as you can see, that obligation, lack of capital improvement projects. I'm not sure this year. I don't think there was a whole lot of funding for capital improvement projects for the new fiscal year.
168.
160. Okay.
That was what we
Okay. So there, the current rate structured, lack of rate and permit fee increases. So there's a number of weaknesses, just like any other community, any organization, you have them both. Opportunities. Now, this is great. This is where there's a lot of potential that we can move forward. One of the ones I want to highlight that I want to talk about, and I'll mention it briefly at the end, is to work on the county's ISO rating, insurance rating. So this is actually not that complicated. So I'm not really sure what's happened, but it hasn't worked out yet. So the ISO rating is what businesses look at for cost of building in Cotulla or any location. The higher the number, the worse the rating is, so it costs more. LaSalle County currently sits at a 5, which is pretty good. But if the city were to enter into an MOU as a county to let the fire marshal inspect within the city limits, potentially we can get the county's rating down to a 3, which invites bigger businesses to look at Cotulla because it saves them money on insurance, but not just businesses, it actually saves homeowners. So when county went from a 10 to a 5, it actually saved homeowners and businesses a good amount of savings for their insurance. Now, one of the things that the fire marshal said was, in order to be able to possibly even get down to a 2, was that the city had to have good records on fire hydrant inspections, which Mr. Wright says that they do, which is fantastic. So there's essentially documentation that would back up consistent evaluation of the fire hydrant system. So there is a really good opportunity that if the city works with the county to enter into an agreement for the fire marshal, it could potentially lower the fire rating to open it up for economic development purposes. Another note that the fire marshal mentioned to me was that if the fire marshal is able to inspect businesses, restaurants, and hotels within the city limits, there could potentially be a lot of violations that they're not being basically monitored right now. There was an idea thrown out that if those violations were found and citations were issued, that the county could potentially turn those violations over to municipal court to help the city generate revenue for the city, So that is something that has been discussed. It just needs to just happen to be able to get that done. So it's just a conversation needs to happen with the county to be able to get that through. But the fire marshal is 100% on board to making that happen.
I have a question
Yes,
before
sir.
you go any further on that. You just mentioned if the fire marshal comes aboard and does inspections on the majority of the businesses here in town, as you were saying, that it would affect some businesses because they're not a part.
Yes.
What if to say that they close down because of due to never being inspected by a fire marshal?
It's a double-edged sword.
Correct.
It could potentially have negative impact on businesses, but for example, hotels who have major violations, locked emergency doors, no fire extinguishers, it's a life issue. So if there's an emergency, there's a fire,
Correct.
they can't access the exits, they can't access the fire extinguishers. At that point, it becomes a public safety issue, which it's residents staying in Cotulla, and that's not going to look good. It's the city's liability. So not only is it an economic development trigger, it's also just a general public safety trigger. So that's one thing that I think we can get up pretty well, pretty fast up and running. Another opportunity is the Chamber of Commerce right now is doing a lot of work on themselves. They're essentially rebranding, reevaluating their position. They're taking a more aggressive standpoint moving forward. As you just approved, they're doing town hall meetings for candidate forums. I think there's a good opportunity to partner up with the chamber even more so in a more concise direction to be able to help promote Cotulla as far as tourism. So one of the objectives in the detailed plan is actually branding and marketing. So the city has to brand itself to be able to get attention, to let people know that Cotulla is here and it's open for business, what it has to offer. And I think with the work that the chamber has been doing or is currently doing, I think there's a lot of opportunity to be able to partner with the chamber to be able to basically kind of defer the promotion of Cotulla to the chamber. And obviously that's a fluid situation and we can talk about that in detail, but I think that's an opportunity for the future moving forward.
Got a question on that. Like what Chamber of Commerce does, can Main Street do the same?
Yes, and Main Street mentioned several times throughout the actual plan. It's actually a collaboration between four entities. It's the city of Cotulla, it's the Chamber of Commerce, it's Main Street, but it's also the Economic Development Corporation. So the city does have an Economic Development Corporation, but unfortunately it's just not active right now.
There's no board at the moment.
So part of the proposal, and I think I mentioned in the back, is to establish a board to fill the seats, to solidify their purpose, their why, what are they going to do, and for them to essentially create their own marketing, their own branding, because they are essentially for the city the marketing arm for economic development. So it's their primary function to go out looking for businesses on a regular basis, but they also have to create some level of tax incentives to be able to come in. Now, that doesn't mean you give it all away. It could be tiered. It could say, hey, if you invest $1 million in capital, then we can waive 25% of your property taxes for the first 5 years. If you do 10 million, we can do 50% for however long. So there's different ways of coming up with incentives that we can work out and finalize that and see what works best for the city. Now, some of the threats, obviously the energy sector is a huge plus, but it's also a huge threat. When energy is good, it's good. When energy is bad, it's bad. And you saw that a few years ago when several companies were laying off hundreds of people and it took a hit on the economy. So diversification of economic businesses is it's imperative, and it's mentioned in depth in the larger brochure. So those are just some of the threats and opportunities. So The plan overall comes down to 6 categories. So it's economic development and sustainable growth, affordable housing, because housing is an issue for new businesses to come. You can't build an HEB or a Walmart if you don't have anywhere to house people. So there has to be certain ways to be able to start off small and gradually work your way up to meet the need of the housing. And then, oops, sorry, I put that one twice somewhere. And then effective governance, public health and safety, culture, recreation, and quality of life. So the culture and recreation actually was something that was mentioned a lot during our process. So part of quality of life, part of businesses wanting to relocate somewhere is that they actually have somewhere for their employees to enjoy. So not only is it a living situation, but what are they going to do when they're off of work? So culture, recreation, quality of life is a big topic for businesses. So and like I said in the brochure, it goes a little bit more in depth. So some of the recommendations that just specific project, we already touched on the ISO rating, the insurance rating, which is working with the county on entering into an agreement. One of the next things that Mr. Wright and I spoke about was infrastructure. So in order to get businesses, we need to make sure that our infrastructure is locked down. And actually, Mr. Wright and I talked about it. We mentioned it earlier about the ARISI program, the GIS program, which is a phenomenal program. When it's really hard to work, but when you actually get it down, it's a powerful machine. So the infrastructure management program, which is just short, it's the IMP. Essentially, what that is, it's a rolling however many years you select. So in San Antonio, it's a 5-year rolling program. So you select project for 5 years. When that year is the current year is completed, you add another one. So it's just constantly finishing, adding. So one of the things that I would like to see done, if possible, maybe in the near future, is to work with your engineer or perhaps to recruit a new engineer to do a pavement condition index rating. The PCI, basically what they do is they rate all the streets in the city so that you know what level of application needs to be done for each city, for each street. Once you're able to do that, you can start mapping out which streets need to be done. Some applications are obviously more expensive than others. If you do a mill and overlay, it's going to be more expensive than the slurry seal. So that way you can kind of gauge what projects need to be done. Once you're able to do that, you can actually dump all that information, like they mentioned earlier, into the recent program where you actually have every street in the network. You have the rating, you have the application, the budget, and when it's projected to be out for actual construction. Not only for internal purposes, but also for external purposes. So residents know when their street might actually get done. Whether it's, I only put streets here just to kind of start off, but you could put curb, you could put stormwater, you could put traffic, you could put any infrastructure that's available for the city into this program. I don't know if this is possible. Maybe Mr. Bennett can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we were to able to do a 2 to 3 year plan and identify projects, potentially funding could be asking the county to enter into an agreement to help fund some of those projects. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but Mr. Bennett can clarify whether that's even a possibility or not.
It's always possible. One of the things the city has is it does collect a economic development tax, and for many years that's really been kind of dormant. And I believe, right, I had been told that that money was going for obligations for debt service on some bonds that had been issued a while back. So it's kind of limited, but the cooperation between the city and the county can always happen. I did notice in here that you had the foreign trade zone as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And as you probably know, the city tried to get a legislation passed in this year's first legislative session, authorizing them to apply to the Department of State to set up a foreign trade zone, but the state legislation never made it out of committee. There are some other ideas that are out there, and I know the city's looking at that, but that's not an easy thing.
consultant in El Paso, me and Mr. Pena are, that says there's a possibility that we could piggyback off another city demographically within our area that currently holds a foreign trade zone, and we could bring their foreign trade zone to Cotulla. We could blanket the whole county, or we could designate our airport area, or pretty much anywhere we would want to in the county as a trade zone. Right now, I'm collecting information. I'm collecting information of what was done prior so that I can transfer it to this gentleman. He wants to look and see if it's even possible that we do this. He says that it is, but he wants to see what we've done and make sure it's not messed up, or.
There's the guy named his name is Quinones. He's out of the city of El Paso. I think he is now in private business. He may still work for him. I don't know. And we did talk to him. There's some workarounds. There's a foreign trade zone board, and apparently he's done a lot of work with them. How that all is going to look, I don't know. I think realistically, San Antonio has one, Laredo has one. There's some cities in the valley that have them too. I think realistically, from the city of Cotulla standpoint, that Laredo is a better fit. If you have kept up with them at all, I mean, they're basically almost to Ensenada now. With some of the things that they're doing, and of course, that will require people to reach out to other people. Mr. Dovalina has a lot of contacts there. What that will look like, he knows lots of people there that I don't know. Zaffarini's office, and I think
He's actually.
It hasn't gone away, but it's a slow process.
No, yeah, definitely. And Mr. Wright mentioned that to me when I visited with him last week, and that was the next one, the advocacy. So I know Mr. Wright had mentioned that a certain senator had kind of blocked in committee the legislation. So essentially, the advocacy part was to partner up with a government relations consultant of some sort to be able to advocate, because as you're aware, bills start to get filed at the end of next year. So for 2025. So the idea was to partner with somebody to essentially start advocating for this specific project, because I know Mr. Wright mentioned that you can piggyback off an existing one, but he wasn't sure, and will it work? Will it not work?
It's a workaround,
Yeah.
Potentially, and quite frankly,
There is the possibility, but will it work for us? That's the question we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, and that's where the advocacy part came in, was just to be able to partner with somebody essentially to help push those parts to try to get us to where we want, especially when it's a representative not in this area who's dictating what happens and doesn't happen in this area. So that was the sole purpose of the advocacy portion, was just to be able to try to get inroads with that particular individual and to find a workaround, see what we can get. Because I mean, but if you can get it.
Well, I don't know, because the legislature would have to be convinced that the city of Cotulla needs one, and if we're sandwiched between Laredo, which is a relatively, I guess, a mid-sized city, and then this behemoth of San Antonio, we may never get the legislation passed. So I think it's a relationship issue. Zaffarini's very favorable to this county,
and she was the.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened, honestly, but all I know is what we were told, and I think that Mr. Dovalina, because he knows so many people. That's really how you get it done. Yeah. And if they're, if any one of them says, then it dies. But if you can get them to come along, honestly, I don't know how that would really affect them. Laredo anyway. They've grown so much. you know, they may be actually glad to get rid of some of the things that they don't want to do. Yeah,
It could be. I mean, there's so many opportunities. I mean, it's just which road do you take, and which one has the most favorable out potential. So
one thing that Mr. Wright and I have discussed is these things kind of come up, everybody gets excited about them, and then they just die on the vine. So one of the things that I think is important is that there's a persistence and that there's follow up.
Yes.
And it may take you 5 years.
Oh yeah,
to do something.
Essentially, that's where the advocacy. The city doesn't have the capacity itself within its staff to be that advocate on a daily basis, which triggers the advocacy component. Is you have somebody.
But if you combine that with the county,
yes,
which is an owner of the airport,
yeah,
you know, they have an interest. You have those things. Just they have to keep going all the time. You have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Otherwise, people forget about it, or they move on to something else, or
out of mind. So
they think somebody else is doing it, and that person thinks they're doing it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the common themes amongst this whole process is, I don't want to say the lack of communication, but the lack of communication between the county and the city. And I know relationships have improved over the course of this past year. But a perfect example is just this simple agreement was the county for the fire marshal. There's simple things that could have been done, just weren't done.
I'm actually very open to the meeting with the fire marshal. I've brought it up several times to the judge, but I have not seen the fire marshal come yet. So I'm waiting for them, for them to approach.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not here or there, but just when I talked to the fire marshal, he was very supportive of partnering with the city.
It's just you have to have a council with a plan, with a direction.
Yes.
And they have to keep at it until they achieve it. Otherwise, it never happens.
So that brings me to the final recommendations. City Council should hold a series of workshops throughout fiscal year 2024 to map out their priorities for fiscal year 2025 to help identify and plan for budgeting, for funding. So that is something that I strongly believe that this council needs to do, is they need to figure out what direction they want to take for the city moving forward for the next year. So throughout this coming fiscal year, or the fiscal year that we're in, my recommendation on this and in there is that the city has to have a series of workshops to identify y'all's priorities. Fiscal responsibility. I'm not saying you guys are wasteful, but there's debt that needs to be taken care of. There's rates that needs to be reviewed. There's a perception of lack of transparency within the city government and trust. There's lack of communication between the entities that work together to make things happen here. So these workshops really, in my opinion, need to take place to be able to get everybody on the same page, for everybody to express what their interests and priorities are, to come up with a solid plan to be able to help identify funding for those plans moving forward for the next fiscal year.
And I think Mr. Wright hit on it. I think it's really the mayor, city manager, and the county judge. Because if you just come in here and just let everybody just start talking, you get nothing done.
Well, I'll agree to disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on this council should have the opportunity to express what they want. Now, when they take it further, then it could be mayor, city manager.
Well, what I'm saying is that before we come here, there has to be something to present to the council, because they're not economic development people. That's not what they do. They're elected officials. Here's the 20 things we want, and if you have an idea,
yeah. But that's the thing is, when someone runs for office, they typically have an idea of why they're running for office.
Sure.
So these work sessions are to express those ideas, and you're 100% right. I've had conversations with a few of council members. You don't have to know how the sausage is made. You just want the sausage made.
You have the vision.
You have the vision. Exactly. I've talked to Councilman Rodriguez on that. Is
you have to have a vision. You have to have goals. You also elected here also So you won't stay on the same place. You have to have a vision, you have to have goals. You have to move forward. We cannot stay on the same mindset. You know, and that's one thing that we have to give also the direction to Mr. Wright. You know, as that council, you know.
And it's okay not to obviously agree on everything, but if you guys can come to a consensus on what you do agree on, because I think you guys probably agree on more than what you disagree, but it has to be a plan from city council. City council members have to have at least the opportunity to present what they believe the city should look like moving forward. After they give those general 30,000 foot level ideas, then that can get worked down at the staff level with Mr. Wright and whomever else is part of this process to really narrow down and work out the details.
I have something I want to say, Ernie. I received this plan today.
Yes.
And I skidded through the plan because I didn't have time to read the whole thing. I want to comment is that economic development plan, one thing that may need to be implemented here is a roadmap from council of what they want to see in the future.
Yeah.
The economic development plan that was made in 2013 had a roadmap of what council wanted, along with the county. And what I see in that plan in the last 10 years has all been implemented in Cotulla. The only thing that wasn't implemented was the charter in that plan. This plan, and like I said, I skidded through it because I got it today. I didn't see that here.
No,
I didn't
and
see
the
plan
reason
moving forward.
the reason is because that comes in the implementation. These are just categories to give activities in order to reach a goal, but the goals I need to come from you guys. So whatever the goals are, this is the roadmap to be able to achieve that. But that's where the work session from council comes in to know specifically what it is that I can't tell you what you guys need to do. I can just give you the blueprints and the steps in order to achieve. If you want affordable housing, these are the steps you can do. But what type of affordable housing are you looking for? Are you looking for apartments? Are you looking for homes? Are you looking to rehab? You know, it really lies with this body to dictate what the future looks like. That's where the work sessions come in. And then once those goals are solidified, then this is where the plan comes in because it gives you steps on how to accomplish those goals. But it ultimately comes from this body on what you guys want to do moving forward.
I have a question. We get like our fire rating down, right? Businesses are gonna come and build over here. So if they're gonna wanna come in and build, that means they're gonna our taxes rate aren't gonna go up, you know? It's just how can I get to this?
The fire rating makes the city more attractive.
Yes.
But it doesn't define who's gonna come. You know, and I'm gonna say one more thing. You know, Mr. Dovalina put in a lot of infrastructure here. He thought for the future. You have Kimosabe development with full infrastructure and very little growth. You have Garros lift station, Garros subdivision, full infrastructure that runs all the way back to Lone Star for Pena. Very little growth. You have the airport now with a water line. You have the airport with a sewer line. No growth yet. When these businesses want to come to Cotulla, that's what they're looking for. The fire rating is important, but they want to see the infrastructure on the ground because that makes it easy for them to come in and just build, and not have to sit there a year and fight with the city and have to pay for the infrastructure. That's what makes us attractive, and that's what's been done. My opinion is we need to stay ahead of that curve. You know, as if we do get growth, as those developments build, we're already doing infrastructure somewhere else. And that's what's gonna make Cotulla grow. You go to Dilley, they don't have it. You go to Pearsall, they don't have it. You go to Carrizo, they don't have it. You have it here now, and that is more important than anything.
There's even the water line on the loop, you know, just in case somebody
And
wants to come in.
that's one of the things that I talk about in this plan is that there's a lot of good work that's been done, but nobody knows about it. So one of the jobs of the Economic Development Corporation in the city is to actually promote itself to say, hey, look, we have the infrastructure, we have the capacity, we can host you, we have a better fire rating than anybody along 35 between San Antonio and Laredo. But if the city's not actively promoting itself, no one's going to find out because you're going to have organic growth, like Mr. Pena said, with the new gas station. Things are going to be built on its own. It's just going to happen. But the issue is, it's not the type of facilities that Situate residents are looking for. They're looking for housing. They're looking for entertainment, for parks, for recreation, culture. Those are the things that aren't going to happen organically.
What we're lacking is housing. We don't
Yeah.
have enough housing for people to come
Yeah.
in. And I know we had a discussion on, and there was a misunderstanding on the hospital. Mr. Rodriguez wanted the hospital to be brought to Cotulla.
Yes.
And everybody wants a hospital. I wish I could have a hospital. But the thing is, when you bring a hospital in, and are we going to be able to sustain it?
Yeah.
That was my question. And when I say, can we be able to sustain it? Then if you don't have enough people attending to that hospital and they don't have a staff to, run this hospital, what's going to happen with that?
Yeah.
And then the county, the city has to bring the county aboard regardless.
Yeah.
No, the city's not going to do it by itself. You have to have an election.
Yes.
In order to bring it. And my question was, and there was some words being misunderstood. It didn't mean that I didn't want a hospital. Is that we have to look at the whole picture.
Yes.
As an elected official, and I'm pretty sure we are elected officials, we have to see the concerns of the people that live in Cotulla, the taxpayers that we have. And those are the people that we have to look for, and there's some people that live in a fixed income that could not be able to afford another tax, if in case there will be a hospital tax added. Because the hospitals, if we go forward and looking for them, the hospitals are going to want some insurance and say, hey, y'all brought us in, so we can't run it, so what are y'all going to do about it? What's the first thing that's going to happen? They're going to add a hospital tax.
Yes.
And a couple of months, about 2 months ago, Mr. Rocha, the attorney for the school and the county and the city, we had 940 delinquent taxpayers in Cotulla. Imagine if we would have another tax bill. And in reality, I mean, we want a lot of things. But you have to look at the whole picture and not just look, me or Mr. Santucci might afford it, but how about the other persons? Another tax.
No, and you're absolutely
And those are things that we have to be real wise about, especially when we're making a big decision. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's little baby steps we can take.
Yes. No, and I agree with you 100% because in 2015, 2016, whenever the whole thing happened, when the city spent some money on renderings and stuff, they were looking at $40 million for a hospital. It was beautiful. It had all sorts of
45 million.
45 million.
45 million.
So on the presentation that I was forwarded that I saw, it had at that time the average house value about, I think it was like $45,000. So with the tax that they were going to be looking at, it was roughly about $108 a year per person. So it was about less than $10 a month. Now, when we had originally had the conversation recently and the trip had been planned or was being planned to go to Oklahoma to do it, in my mind, it wasn't so much, it was a commitment to do it. It was more of what does it take? How does it run? Can it actually be done? It was just an exploratory meeting to answer your questions. What about staff? What about housing? What happens? Do we have enough, will there be enough clients or patients to support the hospital? When I spoke to Fire and EMS, they were thrilled about it because they say the traffic on 35 would be not sufficient to sustain an entire hospital, but it's plentiful for the accidents and the bailouts and stuff that they have that they take to seek emergency. So, in my mind, that was just essentially the starter, just to have the conversation, to even find out if it was even worth exploring further. No commitment. Obviously, a $40 million hospital is a lot, or 45 million. So, like you said, baby steps. It could have started off small, with plans to build out as time went on. So that's where I think that's where I was coming from. It was just, hey, we're just looking at it, right? Like no commitment. It's just what does it take?
Yeah,
If it's even feasible.
It's in the rural community, and everybody in Cotulla, there's I think 2,700 actual taxpayers
Yeah.
that are actually in South County, and a lot of people are in a fixed income. We have a lot of people that are in Section A, and you have to understand that, the most jobs that we have here is about oil business, but most of the people that come here are from out of town. So basically, those people that don't live here, they just stay and then take off. And, our main jobs that we have is independent school district, the prison
The
system,
county.
which only a handful of employees that work from Cotulla were actually working at the prison here. The county, those are actually, brackets that are in the middle class that, you got to look into all that and in order to sustain the hospital.
Now,
And if we would, bring something smaller, which we already have one. We have South Texas Rural Health Clinic, but some people don't go there. We got 2-3 clinics I think we have here. And in reality, if we're gonna go to Pearsall, that's where the EMS is gonna take you. And from there, if something more intensive is gonna be there, that you need surgery or something, where else are you gonna go? San Antonio. So that's where I'm looking at the picture, that
so
a lot of people are not gonna stay in the hospital in Cotulla.
So a couple of things. One, to your point, is that I was doing research on the data for demographics, and the census has the poverty rate at Cotulla like about 31%,
34%.
34%. The Texas average for the poverty level is 14%. So there's a huge discrepancy right there.
Yes.
That goes to your point about affordability of additional taxes. But I guess the point is that what does the city do to help offset that, which is to provide better paying jobs, to recruit new businesses, which essentially that's what this is working with the Economic Development Corporation to attract businesses. Now, if somebody wanted to do an urgent care, the city is not going to pay for an urgent care, but the city can help recruit an urgent care. So they can help identify land for one. They can help with infrastructure if there's not already in place. They can potentially waive fees, move the process along faster to inspections. So that's from the city standpoint. That's kind of the incentives that the EDC would essentially build, was how can we help the process move along faster to be able to get an urgent care. Because at the minimum, that's essentially what the residents want, is they want some level of 24/7 care so that they don't have to drive elsewhere. Now, like you mentioned, it doesn't have to be a full-blown trauma center, but at some level to be able to have access 24/7. So there are things that the city can do to help recruit it. Not necessarily they're responsible for actually building it, but to help gain attention, to say, hey, this is what we have, this is what we can offer you. Would you be willing to partner with us and go forward?
Mr. A lot of people, when I went to the strategic plan meeting, right? There was a lot of people there, and I attended to the last meeting. We had a lot of people have spoken. That's our voice, them. And a lot of people, the main focus it would put 24 hour, it could be urgent care, it could be hospital, you know, but they want something active. It will work. We have like 35, exactly. We have some, an urgent care or in any other thing, you know, but if it's on the main town, probably it won't work. You know, so the point is, we do need something open 24 hours. It doesn't have to be a hospital, but we do have to push for that. You know, it's all about moving forward. And if an urgent care, it comes in on their own, you know, but part of our job also as a council, elected official council, we also have to not just sit on the table. We also have to, you know what, hey, pass out cards, you know, reach out to them, you know, and that's what you call it, like like we have to go out and look. We can't just let everything come in our hand, you know. I mean, our main focus is move forward. We need something for our community, and we can't let it cool up. Yeah.
Ms. Sandra, did you want to say something?
There's a prime example, the dialysis center.
We can open.
We needed one, we've got it. We have a lot of patients, almost 20 patients from here from Cotulla, and,
We can,
you know, that's a prime example right there.
the nursing home had to be sold.
Yes.
To abandon. The thing is that you're saying they're good.
In many places, also, is the way it's being managed, the way places are known, who runs it, what's their own path, you know, how they've also treated other people. I mean, it's small town that will lie, they in the beer now, you know what?
The thing is that
They treated some.
the thing is that we don't have doctors that want to come to Cotulla. You know, we don't have nurses. They want to move to Cotulla.
Yes.
It's just the way it is, and housing.
You think what?
I'm gonna mention it real quick. You know, there's, you know, neighbor of us, neighboring small cities like Cotulla, that you go see a doctor today, and then next 2 days it's gonna be a different doctor from El Paso, and another 3 more days, the following week that doctor is gone, so you're gonna see another doctor that comes from Oklahoma. They just get them contracted, so you can't say that that's going to be your primary doctor, and that's a problem that we're having. And my idea is that I don't want to put a burden to the people that live here, you know, when there's no need. If we can't, you know, if they can barely pay the taxes that they have, that are in a fixed income, and then imagining another hospital tax. That's my main concern. Because we're already in 940 delinquent taxpayers that can't pay their taxes. Imagine adding another tax. You know, me or you might afford it, or if there's a tucha can, but how about the elderly? How about the people that are in the fixed income? That's my question.
If an urgent care would come in on their own,
Yeah, there's no tax.
there's no.
It's different.
Tax.
That's a private business.
Yeah. It's different.
But the city is doing some things right.
Our job also as a official go forward. We have to go back hard.
And I give you,
To
I know what you're trying to tell me, you know, we're moving forward, but we gotta be cautious about what we do. That's my main thing.
You have Cotulla Smiles right here. They came in on their own. We hadn't had a dentist here in I don't know how long. You know, you drive up to Dilly and there's a big billboard, go to Cotulla to get your teeth fixed. You know, I mean, we got Alamo Lumber that's coming here. You got the school that's going to build the $60 million high school. You know, I mean, there are things moving in the right direction too.
Yeah.
And schools are a huge part
I think,
of what brings people to a city.
trade on things that bring our city more revenue, and I think the charter is one of them. I think the foreign trade zone, we need to keep working at that, plunging away. And then housing would come on its own by itself. But we've been knocking on doors. Mr. Dovalina knocked on a couple of doors with a couple of contractors. I believe KB Homes was one of the ones that he said, but they weren't interested in coming over here because we were
Not yet.
so small. Not yet. So the urgent care, it's going to be on its way. And these are things that are just going to happen in due time. I wish they could happen faster, but there's certain other things that need to happen before these kind of businesses take an interest in our city.
Let me just say this one thing. The city is very limited in resources.
That is correct.
Every city has affordable housing issues. There's not one in the United States that doesn't have it. They all have it. You know, you see it here, but it exists in San Antonio, it exists in Dallas, it exists in Dilley, it exists in Pearsall, it exists everywhere. Any place that you've got people that need an affordable place to live and a job and things of that sort. So you can help with that. The things that have been done, the infrastructure, you've planted the field. I mean, it's out there.
Also, a water source is a big
Sure.
place, right?
Sure.
Water makes or breaks a city.
Yeah.
David,
Availability.
David, doesn't our city own the Nueces River water right?
No. No.
We don't.
No.
We have documentation from 1929 that allocates 537 acre feet of water behind the dam to the city of Cotulla and the LaSalle County.
But there's no dam.
Well, there's also a permit there for the city to build the dam. I have this with Stacy Barner right now. I might have sent you a copy of it, but they're looking into
And
it.
we've looked at it a few times, but there were some things that were done. There was an allocation act, and there was some things I've looked at it. I mean, it could be, you know, but you know, the city has done some things. You know, it only can do so much. I look in the newspaper and I saw the size of the county budget and compare that to the city budget. The city's what, 1/6 of that amount, something of that sort. So you're going to have to work together. School districts are great, but they can't get involved in any of this stuff. They teach and they build schools. That's it. They're not economic development people. So it's
There's
gonna.
that council, administration, different entities need to work together to get some of these issues resolved, which is going to be very hard to do. And it's not going to take one person, one entity to get it done. It's going to take a group of people to get it done.
It takes a city and the county officials to get together and promote.
If you drive up 35 now,
Together. So, I believe we have work in progress. We have testimonies that we are working with the county. We've had various amount of projects with them. We're some of the projects that we have with them. And I'm sure that there'll be other projects that we can plan in the future with them as well.
I was just asking David the other day that I want to get the council and the commissioners, see if we can work, you know, have like a workshop and see if we can speak, you know, have a big vision, have goals. Let's see how we can work together, you know, and let's see
And that's
So we
where
can put your community forward.
the planners come in, because you have to have a plan or you don't
Yes.
get anything done.
That gives me a direction on which way we. And right now, I've been here a short amount of time, but right now, I mean, I know what everybody wants here, but it's not a quorum of what you all want. You know, and I really feel that I need that. I know
need
I know what
direction.
we can do, I know we're gonna grow, I understand all that, but at some point, the council, you tell me, this is what we want as a quorum, and this is where we move.
Everything's
And that's where I'm
possible,
gonna shoot.
Yes.
but we have to be united.
I have, my point of view is, and probably some of y'all's too, the main one topic that needs to occur is that if the charter passes, it needs to pass in order to decrease the taxation for everything.
Yes.
And then comes along housing. After housing, then other entities, like what he's asking, and others that will follow. But that needs to happen, in my opinion.
Because of the change of designation of our city from a home rule city, I mean, from a general law city to a home rule city. That's very important. Most people,
Correct.
they always, that's one of the first things big businesses ask.
Correct.
What are you? Are you a home rule city or a general law city?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get, tell you across is that when the charter passes, if it passes, that you're going to be annexation the 1 mile stretch, or I don't know how long.
There was a lot of people that were misunderstanding, and they were scared, to be honest.
There
on
wasn't
the
enough
charter,
information out
Yeah,
there.
because people that live out of the city limits, they thought that, once a city would have the power to be in the charters, that there will be annexed. But by law, you can make them annexed.
The legislature chips away at cities' abilities to do involuntary annexations. They don't really pick on cities like Cotulla. They pick on Houston and San Antonio and Austin and Dallas. But it has been rolled back. It is harder to do it now. But there are things potentially that could help. And as the mayor said, you're recognized as you've arrived. You are sophisticated, even though the only things you may be doing here are building streets, pumping water, selling gas, hauling garbage. That stuff's very important. I'm on 35 all the time. San Antonio has pushed its way into Lytle. There's homes for $200,000-$300,000 being sold in Lytle, Texas, of all places. Eventually, those houses are going to become unaffordable for more people, and they're going to keep heading this way, and Laredo's going to do this. Right. Yeah. It's. I mean, you've seen the houses. They're not mansions. They're $250,000, $300,000 homes in Lytle, which was a smaller town than Cotulla forever. It's just closer to San Antonio. So those things are coming.
Councilman, I know that we need housing. I've been talking about it ever since my first term back in 2012. And it's not as easy as you think. Certain things have to happen in the city before somebody with housing takes an interest, on building homes here before a contractor or a big company. But I think that if we can get over the hump of the charter, getting it passed, it's a start. And then if we can get, like we talked earlier about the foreign trade zone, I think if we can get those two items in, I strongly believe that we would get more companies to come in, and then you would see a lot more things being built that would attract an emergency center and housing.
You have to explain to the people of the community what a charter means, and
That is correct.
and what's the purpose of it, because you just put it out there to be voted on, and the community is not aware of what they're gonna be voting on. And they're not gonna pass it, they're not gonna vote for it.
You afraid?
They're afraid. But that, you have to be out there and explaining to the community what it is, what's the benefit we're gonna get.
I think it's all of our jobs to do that. Myself and the councilman, I think whenever you get every chance, you get your face in front of somebody, I think, when the time comes that we do have the charter on the ballot, that we explain to them at least a little bit on what it means.
But
And,
there's a lot of people
and ask them
minds-
questions if they understand.
I was up for election, a lot of people here were in shock because they thought that, hey, we're gonna annex your property and you're gonna pay more taxes. I already pay county and school and water district taxes, but I don't wanna be.
I don't want to pay city.
The city can only, if the person requests it at this
Yeah,
point.
but a lot of people.
Yeah, they don't know that the law changed in 2018.
One of the things that needs to be started also, I know they already have 10, the committee. Am I correct?
There's
Yeah.
10, yes.
Okay, the meeting has to start pretty quick in order for that to be put on. Because not everybody those 10 people on the committee have been advised when is the next meeting. So in order for it to be put on the ballot on the election, it needs to start pretty quick, in my opinion, because it may not be the same charter, I guess package. It could modify it by the people that are in there.
Yeah,
Top 10.
my belief on that is that I think that should be decided by the charter commission
Correct.
itself. We've attempted twice to commence in December. We weren't able to get a quorum. As far as I know, everyone was notified. I had documentation of who was notified and when.
Did you try November when we were selected all the names?
Well, no, we didn't. We tried in December. So come January, first week of January, we're gonna commence the charter commission.
I know that you probably notified, or the city's been notifying by email or by phone. Can you try by mail?
Yeah, we can mail them.
Yeah,
they-
try all 3 items because sometimes they don't check their emails.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
we really want to call them and contact them.
yeah,
The expectation is that everyone on the charter commission was
correct,
informed that they were going to be on it.
correct.
Well, it's a whole bunch of things that need to come together. I think Mr. De La Rosa has done a good job of
Done an awesome job.
outlining these things. A lot of it you already knew, but now you see it in an organized format, and it's a good stepping stone to, and this stuff can help with the foreign trade zone stuff.
Yeah, so I guess, Mr. De La Rosa, are you gonna meet back up with us again?
Yes, sir. I wanna
and
give
then
you guys,
that way we can go over it and read it.
I want to give you guys time to review it, get your input. I want to work with Mr. Wright on the specifics of it so that we can finalize everything for you guys, and then come back in January with the final based on your input.
Hey Ernie,
Yes, sir.
weren't we planning on a workshop in January?
Yes, January 4th.
Okay.
January 4th was we had tentatively scheduled a workshop.
Right. Okay.
So that way you guys have time over the holidays on January 4th. We can get your input, and then I think council's the following, because once we
That'll
get your
be the
input,
second Thursday of the month.
yeah, because once we get your input, it won't be difficult to implement all your comments and finalize everything so that we can take it to council the following month, the following council to get it approved. So the bulk of it's already done. It's just now it's tweaking to fit y'all's specific needs and goals. So that's all we're pending now. It's just to get your feedback, and then we can tweak it and then finalize. Basically, basically the last thing that's missing is just the implementation of it.
Well, thank you for that report, and look forward to meeting up with you
Definitely.
guys again.
Thank
You again on.
And just I don't know if you want to contact Mr. Wright, if you want to contact me, whatever the case is, whatever is easiest for you guys, just to provide the feedback. So
Thank you.
okay, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Moving on to item number 14, closed session. It is now 9:34. Letter A, Texas Government Code and Section 551.0 071, consultation with attorney. All right, everybody. It is now 9:56. Closed session was just a discussion, and coming out into open session, no action was taken at any point in time. So moving on to item number 16, this meeting is adjourned, and it is now 9:57.